which really are for them to implement. So we obviously have to pursue that. Fortunately, we have been dealing with them already. Illicit financial flows must be dealt with. And the reason for it is because they see that they are losing themselves. They are losing billions of dollars or euro, whatever, through these illicit financial flows. Because even major companies based in their own countries, whether it's UK or the US or Switzerland or Germany or France or whatever, major corporations based in their own countries, which are doing business across the globe, at the end of the year, when they've made their profits, the profits don't come to London. They go to a tax haven somewhere. So even the taxes, therefore, that are due to this major company, country, developed country, they cannot be collected because the money is stuck away somewhere in some tax haven. So they themselves are interested in this issue. So they are doing something already without any prompting from us. They are doing something because it's in their interest. Fortunately, I'm saying we've already engaged them, and so we are already linked with them in terms of implementation. Therefore, it will be possible for us to pursue with them the European Parliament, the European governments, the US government, the OECD, World Customs Organization, all of these bodies, World Bank, IMF, and so on. We will therefore be able to continue to work with them to implement this, and in particular to follow up with them in terms of what are really specific to them, things that must do. You know, the European Parliament, for instance, has been looking at legislation which would oblige the multinationals in their annual financial statements to break down the financial statements by country, so that you, ABC multinational, don't just present one report to say this year we made $100 million or euro in profit. To break that down, to say of that I made 5 million in South Africa, 3 million in Kenya, 7 in Brazil, to break it by country. Because what they're saying is that what's been happening, is that these multinational corporations have been hiding the profits they are making by giving this global figure rather than a detailed country-by-country figure. So they will give you one global figure, but the real money is gone off to Bermuda somewhere. So it's hidden, it can't be taxed and so on. So they themselves are interested in dealing with this matter, which is why they are so ready to cooperate with us.
Last question, if any.
You know, one of the members of parliament made the correct observation that many African countries do have these institutions that we're talking about. Nigeria is one of those countries. Nigeria has all of these various institutions, some of which the president has just mentioned now. What would be necessary? I'm not sure if I should say this to my colleagues here, should say it. But part of what would be necessary in Nigeria is proper coordination among them. it is these institutions. I think it would be important that the new government, as the old government had a responsibility, they should continue that. It will, I think, be important to make sure that there is proper coordination among all these institutions. But the institutions are there. Plus, of course, a matter that would be common to all our African countries is looking at the institutions are there, but do they have capacity? On paper, they may look okay, but when you dig a little bit deeper, you find that they are not. I mean, we've had an instance, I'm not saying it's particularly Nigerian, where one of the African countries exports gas, natural gas. So we asked them, we said, do you know how much gas you are exporting? They said, yes, we do. We said, well, how do you collect that information? They say the companies tell us. So there was absolutely no capacity in the country to measure how much gas they are producing and exporting. They dependent entirely on what the company was reporting. The companies that are responsible for this gas were reporting. Now, that can't be right. But I'm not saying that it applies to Nigeria particular, but I think it would be important even for Nigeria to have a look at that. How much oil is in Nigeria producing and exporting? I'm not sure that Nigeria knows, apart from what the companies tell Nigeria. I'm sure that's something that the government would need to look at. There's somebody who mentioned.
Last question.
There's somebody who mentioned private jets. Again, I'm not saying that is specific to Nigeria, but I think the observation was correct. From the work that we were doing, the matter was raised somewhere on the continent, that you have these private jets and the people put a lot of cash on the jet and they fly out, and there are some countries in the world which are tax havens or secrecy, financial jurisdictions, which are quite happy. You can bring as many millions cash as you like. That's what they want. So you have these private planes carrying loads of cash to deposit somewhere. So I'm sure these are some of the things that Nigeria would have to look at. Certainly the capacity in terms of institutions of state is there. And I'm sure they presume the legislation that empowers those institutions, I'm sure it's also there. It will be probably the functioning of this that would have to be looked at.
Daniela from SABC News. My question, sir, would be, now you've said that the AU's, the heads of states have adopted the report. Now what would satisfy the panel that things are moving in the right direction? Which next step do you think should follow, should be prioritized to ensure that this process is fast-tracked and the money that is needed by millions of Africans is returned back? And yeah, I think I'll leave it at that one.
Well, fortunately, I mean when the Assembly of Heads of State and Government adopted the report, they approved a declaration. Which declaration? I'm sure you'll see it. It's on the African Union website. It says, we as African Heads of State and Government say these are the actions that need to be taken. Now, they also prescribe actions for our panel. So we're not sure whether we're still in existence or we are, but the AU said, panel, please, can you do the following? You know, it's actually both the chair and the panel. That's what it says. Yeah, sure, I mean, yes. So she says I'm the dictator now. That's okay. That's all right. So as a panel, we are required, certainly in terms of that declaration of the African Union, to do something. But there are other bodies also. So we are therefore part of the implementation. We'll be part of the implementation processes here, because it says with regard to our panel, it requests our contingent engagement and the panel, of the chair and the panel, in carrying out advocacy work to disseminate the findings and galvanize support from a broad cross-section of partners, etc. So I think we are part of the implementation mechanisms in terms of this decision of the summit of the AU, and I think that gives us the access, the point of access, to come back then to what would be, for instance, the AU Commission, to say in terms of our work, this is what we're doing, but in terms of our observations, this is what we see, so that you as a center must then act, etc. Certainly, I think the possibility for us to act in that way, apart from doing what we're expected to do, popularize the report and mobilize people to implement, but also to be able to comment on how far and how fast we are moving.
Yes, thank you very much. And in fact, let me thank His Excellency, and just a little reference to the earlier issue about oil and gas information on Nigeria. There are agencies that have all the information about oil production, about exports, but of course the main leakages, and I believe that's where the new government needs to really look at, come from, first, the international crime organizations that work with local gangs that we call bunkerers, who collaborate and with security agencies, with oil company staff, with NNPC staff, to steal oil and gas products illegally. They bring the tankers to the Niger Delta, they load them, many of them from the Far East, some from Europe, from everywhere else. They come, and in exchange, they exchange weapons for oil products, or sometimes cash. And this is also being perpetrated by people who break into the pipelines to steal products. At most production points across the Niger Delta, you find that the metering facilities are there by DPR, by customs, and by the NNPC. Then another point where the illegal flow goes has to do with the sale of the products and the issue of tracking the inflow of payments coming from the sale, issues with NNPC and the accounting systems and central bank and the accounting issues. Those are key areas we believe the new government must look into. There are reports, very detailed reports, some done by commissions have been instituted by government, some done by independent organizations like the Extractive Industries Transparency Agency, some done by Parliament. And it's the will to implement these reports. That's where the issue is. Even from Central Bank, there have been reports about how there's illegal flow of funds out of the oil and gas resources that are available in Nigeria. And I think that is the political will that Nigerians are looking for, the leadership that would take the issue of corruption and take it head on. It's a monster that has kept the country underdeveloped and left it a rich country of poor people. So we need that political will to ensure that the agencies that have been set up, that the information that's available is acted on, and that those who have continued to perpetrate these acts over the years, who have continued, both local and foreign, who have continued to benefit from this process, are actually brought to book. That will be the beginning of the house cleaning exercise, and I think that will go a long way to set an example. Nigeria set a fantastic example with the elections they've held. Now we have this standard now that people and their will prevail. Now the next step is to see how do we begin to ensure that public resources are no longer left in the pockets of a few, and that wealth distribution and opportunities and access for the people, for education, for healthcare, for infrastructure is developed in a manner that will benefit majority of the citizens. And that applies to many other African countries. I believe that the work is set for all of us, the media, parliamentarians, civil society. Everybody must continue to make an input into that process. And together, I believe that we would all work for a better continent. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. We've had opportunity to really, like I said earlier, drink from your fountain of wisdom and knowledge. And we hope that the good Lord will continue to keep and preserve you in your service to the people of our continent. Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks, brother.
So, because we are recording, right? We mustn't do this thing like, hey, there will be 7:30 hours.
Vikas?
Okay. You kill them. So, the Honorable President is the former President. Yamaba.
Vikas?
I took the time of every leader is making more color of you getting marked. I hope you will do it. That's what time. Okay. It's here.
Yeah.